Welcome to Bandit's Keep. I'm Daniel. In this video, we're going to talk about saving throws. So saving throws are kind of interesting to me, and I just wanted to explore it a little bit. I was talking about this a little bit on the Discord server recently, and it just got my mind going. So this is going to be just my thoughts on saving throws and how they've kind of evolved and changed, and what I like about some of the old school saving throws, what I like about the idea of some of the new school saving throws, and what I'm doing in my personal game. Before I get too far into this, though, I want to mention that I have a podcast that you may not know about. It's called Monsters and Treasure. It's with K.R. King from D&D Homebrew. I will put a link in the description below. Check that out. All right, so let's get into it. Let me define how I'm going to talk about saving throws here so we're all on the same page. Saving throws to me are a roll that you make, obviously, to avoid some kind of an effect outside of a normal combat effect. That is to say, if somebody swings a sword at you, you don't roll a saving throw, right? That's something different. But if a sleep spell is cast at you, you do, although you don't get a saving throw for sleep in BX, but you know what I'm saying. A saving throw is that kind of a special defense, if you will. It's a defense that we all have, and we all, as player characters, at different levels depending on our class and where we are, and depends on the system you play. Now, where does this even come from? I don't know the true origin of saving throws in general. Maybe somebody who's a wargamer knows this, but Chainmail, which I use as a basis of my game, very specifically has saving throws. And it's really interesting because what they do, and this is going to become important, they don't tie the saving throw to the character. You know, in Chainmail, which is basically a war game, you're moving around a lot of miniatures. You do have individual heroes and stuff, but they don't have stats. They're just what they are. And the saving throw comes in based on the effect. That is to say that if a wizard uses their fireball, for instance, then certain characters have a chance to save. If you fail to save, you die, basically, because you're getting hit in a war game. Things like heroes, superheroes, wraiths, giants, dragons, they all have a chance to survive. Regular soldiers, no chance. Very specifically, the saving throw is giving certain individuals chances to avoid certain effects. Which, now that I've said that, if you've ever wondered why saving throws in old school games are weird and they're named things like turn to stone, this is the reason why. Because they were derived from this kind of play. That is, the saving throw is tied into the effect, not so much to the character. Yes, certain characters react different to different effects, but the saving throw is based on the effect. And apparently saving throws were not popular amongst all people because very specifically in the Dungeon Master's Guide, Gary Gygax spends time defending them. And one of the things that he says that I think is really interesting is key here. I'll point out this is from the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide, just in case you don't know. And this is from page 80. Yet, because the player character is all important, he or she must always, or nearly always, have a chance, no matter how small, a chance somehow escaping what otherwise would be inevitable destruction. This is what they're talking about in the idea of saving throws. And I remember, I may have told the story before here on this channel, but I was running 5th edition and we had been running for a year or so. And there was a thing that the players did, which was basically, theoretically, should have just killed the whole party. It should have been a TPK. And we ended the session and I said, I have to think about what we're going to do. And I don't know why, I just went and I'm like, let me look back at this because I just picked up the first edition Dungeon Master Guide and I was kind of reading through it, having been away from all this for so long. And that's the passage that made me say, maybe rethink what saving throws were. Because having been playing 5th edition the whole time, you tend to use saving throws for a lot of things. And this is not just 5th edition. If there's a pit trap, you make a dexterity saving throw to avoid it. So if you're an OSR person, you're probably thinking now, oh yeah, I've read modules before where there's a pit trap, you make a turn to stone save or something to avoid it. Why is that? It's because I think they were thinking of some kind of a mechanic, right? They were like, how can we mechanize the trap? How can we give them a chance to avoid the trap? Because again, this is not a combat action, right? It's not that the trap is attacking them with a sword. The trap is a pit in the ground. How do we handle that? And the choice was made to use saving throws. I'm not sure that I personally like that choice. In fact, I don't like that choice. And I have gone on record talking about that I'm not a big fan of rolling under stats or doing those kind of things. But to me, that's where that would be good. You roll against your dexterity. Or maybe somebody with a dexterity or better can get out of the pit trap. Or maybe it's a fixed number. Could be a 1 and 2 on a d6. And then maybe modified by, if you're above a certain level or something. But the saving throw for the trap should be, in my opinion, based on the trap, not based on the PC and not based on Medusa. How does that make any sense? In Chainmail, all of the saves are based specifically on the creatures. There are some creatures or some things like a fireball from a wizard that a hero has a chance to save. There's other ones that only magic users can save or wizards can save from. It's really interesting. And that's because I think when they were developing the game, they were thinking, what is the thing here? What character should survive? What is the chance? What is the fiction that can be created around the saving throw? It's not just, roll this to avoid, roll this to avoid. It's not something that you should be doing all the time. In my opinion, a saving throw is something that should be rare. If you are rolling a saving throw, that's because you found yourself in a very bad situation where a regular person should die. But because the player character is all important, you have a chance. All right, so based on what I said there, that's at least some justification in my mind for a mechanic that a lot of people don't like, which is save or die, or sometimes they call it save or suck, like a hold person spell. You get a spell cast on you. In some games, you get to keep making saving throws over and over again, or it doesn't last that long. The duration is really short. But in old school games, spells are powerful magic. And if you get a hold person spell cast on you and you fail that saving throw, you know what? You failed the saving throw. That's a massive thing. And guess what? It might suck for your PC, but you have that spell too. And when you cast that hold person on, the evil high priest and they fail the saving throw and they can't cast any spells, yeah, right? It works. So the idea here is that the save is something you're doing when basically you'd very likely die otherwise. So save or die or save or suck. That being said, I tend to prefer poisons especially to be damage doers. And in fact, if we look at the OD&D saving throws, we get this. Failure to make the total indicated, they're talking about the chart above, results in the weapon having full effect. I love that they call the spells weapons. It's so great, OD&D. i.e., you turn to stone, or take full damage from a dragon's breath. Scoring the total indicated above or scoring higher means that the weapon has no effect, death ray, polymorph, paralyzation, stone, or spell, or 1/2 effect, poison scoring 1/2 total possible hit damage. So in original Dungeons & Dragons, in the Little Brown Books, the very first game, they were considering poison to be something that just did extra damage, not you just die. So for me, I tend to use poisons in that way. Most poisons that are in my game cause damage. Some of them will kill you depending on what it's from. So yes, save or die, but not always. Will Medusa still take you out in one failed saving throw? Heck yeah. You just looked at Medusa and you weren't Perseus. That's just the way it is, right? And plus there's stone to flesh spells. You'll get saved someday when the party gets high enough level. So I guess what I'm advocating for here and what I do in my personal game is I remove saving throws. I do not have saving throws in the character sheets. I create a saving throw for any particular monster that has an ability like that or spell that has an ability like that. That is, not all spells have the same saving throw. I create saving throws for things like a plung and a pit trap, or I use an ability score. I treat each thing individually and different. And I know that when you're trying to have a game that people are all consistently playing, that becomes difficult. But when you are running your world, and we've talked about this before, mostly on my other podcast, the idea of like running Bandit's Keep world is different than Greyhawk or Blackmoor or whatever your world might be called. And when you sit down to play my game at my table, this is how it works. And as long as all the players are on board and everybody likes it, then that's all great. I also find it's really nice when you bring a new player in to play because they have even less on the character sheet to look at. They have their ability scores, they have some gear, they got their class and level, and we're ready to go. There's no, what's this saving throw thing? Don't worry about it. When you run into Medusa, I'll tell you what to roll. So if you're new to the channel and you haven't already, please do subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications so you know all the new videos coming out. Also check the description below. You'll find a link to my Discord server where you can join the conversation over there. Also a link to Monsters and Treasure, my podcast, my other podcast, and a link to my Patreon if you'd like to support the channel. I'll talk to you soon.